Hello everyone, my name is Sahil Monga. In today's video, we will see how to connect a Power Automate to an on-premise database server, the Microsoft SQL database server, and to connect to the local file storage server, get the documents for the contacts from your local system, upload the documents to SharePoint Online, and view those folders, those particular files from Dynamics 365. So I'll start with this presentation. It is a short presentation. And I would like to tell you this is in continuation to my first video on how to upload documents, your local system documents using Power Automate to Dynamics 365 or SharePoint Online. Right. So if you haven't watched my first video, I would recommend you to watch the first video firstly, and then take a look at this video. So in continuation to my last video, so here is the use case details that we are going to discuss today. So we'll use Power Automate Flow to connect to an on-premise SQL database. So the database is going to have a few tables, and we will get the contact details from those tables and their related documents details as well, like document location basically. And then we will firstly query Dynamics 365 to check if those contacts are existing in Dynamics. If they do exist in Dynamics, then we will go back to our local system. We will fetch the file contents and upload those files in SharePoint Online for the Dynamics 365 contacts. And once this upload has been successful, then we will go back in SQL Server and write back to the table that this particular record has been successfully updated or uploaded in SharePoint Online. So this is the use case details as you could see on this slide. And moving to the next slide, it shows this solution overview. So what we are going to do is that what are the components that will be there. So it is Power Automate Flow, which is a cloud-based application. So we'll use the on-premise data gateway. So you must install the on-premise data gateway on your database server or any other server in your network that can communicate with your database server and your local on-premise document storage server. So using Power Automate Flow, we are firstly gonna connect to the SQL database. We'll get the customer, your contact information, and the files information related to those contacts. And then we'll upload those in the SharePoint Online, and the same can be viewed or managed from Dynamics 365. So that's our solution overview. Okay, so let's quickly jump to the demo. Before I jump to the demo, let me show you these two tables I was talking about. So we have two tables, person and person files. In person table, we have person ID, person name, and person email. In the person files table, so we have person file ID, file location. So these are the document locations for that particular person. And then imported to Dynamics. So it shows 0, which means these are not imported to Dynamics. And then once these are uploaded to SharePoint or to Dynamics, we will come here and update the status to 1. And if there will be any error, so the imported to Dynamics value will be 0 with the error details displayed in this particular column. So that's what we are gonna do. And I would like you to see, like, we have 001, 001, 02, and 03. So these are the 3 different person IDs against which we have documents in our system, and these documents are going to be uploaded in SharePoint Online. Okay, and I have this stored procedure USB get person files, so I'm passing this parameter 0 so that it could show me all the files that we need to upload to SharePoint. So this gives me these results. So it shows me there are 3 different contacts, 001, 002, and 003, against which the files should be imported to SharePoint Online. So let's take a look at Dynamics now. So in Dynamics, I have these three contacts: 001, 003, and 004. So we in our database, so we are missing 004. So which means this contact is not going to be traversed. And if we see 002 is also missing here, so which means when we start our process and the contact record 002 is traversed, for all those records we should be seeing like contact is not existing, so those should not be imported, and in the error details it should show these contacts are not existing in Dynamics. So I'm going to open one of the contact. In the files tab, we will see what all documents are already existing, or if there isn't any, so we'll see no data available. So the documents are going under Dynamics 365 SharePoint site. This is the site, and these are our different contacts. So let me open one of the contacts to show you. So this has one file, and the folder path, folder location in the SharePoint Online site, it is labeled as contact, which is the name of entity, slash the full name of contact underscore GUID, and then there would be a slash the file name. So that's how the folder path will be mapped in the Power Automate flow. One thing to notice here is that if you have watched my first video, so you would know. So this GUID, this is the GUID of contact, and without the hyphens. So we have to notice that when we are creating our folder path, so we have to remove the hyphens. Okay, so let's jump to the Power Automate flow. So I have already created one flow, and let's traverse through that. So I am manually triggering this flow. So I have created few variables like imported to Dynamics. So if a record is successfully imported to SharePoint, I'll say if it is uploaded to SharePoint, a document, so we will be setting this to true. By default, its value has been set to true. But if the document is not uploaded successfully, we will set it to false, and we will store the error details in this variable, which is error details. And then we have the variable is contact found in Dynamics. So this is for the contacts. Let me quickly go to the database again. So these are the contacts like 002, 002. So these are not existing in Dynamics, and when our flow will traverse these records, so we will set this variable is contact found in Dynamics to false for such kind of contact records. And then this is the last person ID. So I'll show you the use of this particular variable inside the flow. This is actually to store the last or the previous traversed contact record, because I don't want to query my CRM server again and again, because that would not be the best way of doing that. If I have already queried for P001 in my Dynamics, I would not want to hit my CRM server again and check for P001 again, because I've already traversed to P001. So I'll save it in a variable, the ID, and I know it is existing. So next time I'll directly just upload the file against this particular contact. So that's the purpose of this particular variable. And then to construct the folder path to upload the document, so we need the contact full name and contact GUID. So these are the variables that I'm using for contact full name and GUID. Okay. So let's collapse these and expand this very first step, which is executing the stored procedure, right? So get files to upload to SharePoint. So this is my procedure, stored procedure, get person files imported to Dynamics. I'm passing it no, which means 0. So get me all the files that we need to upload to Dynamics or to SharePoint, so that those files are accessed from Dynamics. Okay. So for each, now we are running a loop. This is apply to each control. So for each SQL person file record, so this is the result set here. If you could see under result sets, under table 1, we'll get all the records, those 6 records that we need to traverse. So for each record, we are checking if the person ID is equal to last person ID. So this is for the very first record, when we are actually starting it from scratch, this flow, this condition will be false because last person ID is empty by default. This is the default value, right? But this condition, the second condition is says if contact found, this is by default true, but overall this is going to fail, right? So for the very first record, we are going to go under this particular section if no. But at this moment, I want you to assume like this condition is true. Our first record has already been traversed and we have found our contact is existing in Dynamics and the person ID is equal to last person ID. So for example, you can assume this record, the first one has already been executed and it has been uploaded to Dynamics or to SharePoint Online. And now it is the turn for second record, P0001, this one particularly. And so that means our contact is existing in Dynamics and our last person ID which was traversed was this, so it is going to hold this value, and the current person ID is this, which means these both are same and the contact is existing in Dynamics as well. So we'll go in this section and this part of the flow. So I have implemented try, catch, and finally blocks. So if you're writing codes in C# or in any other language, you must be aware of, you must know what a try, catch, and finally blocks are. So in the try block, we have multiple steps, right? So try is going to execute always, and in case there is an error, then we will go to the catch block and I'll show you how I have configured it. So the very first step in the try block is, the very first action is get file metadata. So this is the step which is going to give me the file name, file size, ID, everything. So I have passed in file location that I retrieved from my stored procedure. And after that, I'm getting the file content and I'm passing the same file location. So once I have the file metadata and file content, then I am using this next action, which is create file in SharePoint. Creating this file in SharePoint, here is the folder path. So you firstly select your site address and then the folder path. In the folder path, if you could see in the mouse hover, so I have constructed the path by giving the variable contact full name underscore GUID, and I'm replacing the hyphens with the blank spaces so that there isn't any hyphen. So that's how we construct our folder path. Okay. Then comes the file name. So for file name, we used this step, get file metadata. And then from the file content step, we get the file content that is being passed in here. Right. So this is my try block, and in case there is any error in any of the step here, right, if the file is already existing, right, or if the file is taking too much time to upload, so this step fails, and once the failure happens, so it would go to my catch block. And in catch block, I have configured this step to run after only if the try step is failed. So you can click on configure run after, and then you can select when you want to run this particular block. So this is actually just for the information, this is a scope control. So under control, you get the scope action. So this is a scope action item. So firstly, I'm creating, I'm getting the results of try block, and then I'm creating an array. I'm creating an array of all the failed or timed out steps. So there are multiple steps there. If one fails or multiple step fails, so I'm just creating an array of failed steps. So where the status is failed or timed out, or I can show you one example how it comes. So here is the status, right? If a step is so my step name is create file. So while creating a file in SharePoint, if that step is failed, that action item is failed, in the outputs I'll get the status code, which is 400, and then I have said I have created an array for all the error messages where the status is failed. And if you have to get to the message, so what you would have to do is that under outputs you would have to go to body, and then under message you'll get, okay, this file, whatever would be the error message, right? So you'll get it under message. And so there could be multiple errors. So for each and every error, what I'm doing is that I'm just appending the message, error message, to the variable error details. So this is my expression items for each error found true. In the outputs, as I just showed you, in the outputs under body, under message, I'll get the error message. So I'm just appending that error message for each and every error to my error details variable. So next comes imported to Dynamics. Because an error has occurred, I would want to update back my SQL table saying that this record is not imported because of this particular error. So I'm setting it to false, right? And then comes the finally block. So finally block is always executed even if try has failed or try has been successful. So finally is always executed. So in finally, the very first step is that we are going to update back our SQL table, and we are passing in the file ID information, the record that we want to update. In the imported to Dynamics, in this particular case, by default it is true, but if you go into the catch, if there is an error, so this will be set to false. And in the error details, by default it is blank, but if it is a catch there, so you are appending all the error messages, so this would not be blank and there would be something, right? So once this is executed, then we are again setting the values of error details to null and imported to Dynamics to true for the next record to process it. Okay. So this is the block which is executed if your contact is already existing in Dynamics, and if you have if your last traversed person ID is equal to your currently traversing person ID. Okay. Now let's take a look at this block. So because for the very first time when you are going to run your flow, so we are assuming there won't be any last person ID, it is going to be empty, and in that case this condition is going to be false. The current person ID is equal to last person ID, and hence we will land up in this particular section. So firstly, very firstly, we are checking if the person ID, so there are two conditions above, right? Either this can be false or this can be false, or both of them can be false in order to land to this particular part. So we are just checking here what condition has failed. So if person ID is not equal to last person ID, right? So for the very first time, this is going to be true for the very first record for P0001. So what's going to happen is that we will land in this condition. Yes, the person IDs are not equal. So we will search query Dynamics with the person ID. So this is my query. New person ID is equal to the person ID that we fetched from SQL Server. So if a record is found, so there are possibilities, right? Your Dynamics may not have all the contacts which are listed there in the person file table. So we are just checking if the length of array we are checking, or there could be more than one contact with the same ID. Ideally, this should not happen, but we have to, handle the exceptions. There could be a scenario wherein you find more than one contact with the same ID. So what we are going to do is that we will check the length of the array returned, and if it is greater than 0, that means we have found at least one contact record, right? So if there is at least one contact record, we are running a for each loop here which is applied to each control. So for each contact found, what we are going to do is that we are going to execute the same things. Firstly, we are going to get the file metadata, then we are going to get the file content, then we'll upload that particular file in SharePoint using the create file step. So this is our folder path, how we create it. So we concatenate the full name underscore the contact ID. And then if there is an error, so we run into the catch block, and we will set, so this is exactly the same as we just saw in the other yes block. So then comes the finally, and the finally once it is uploaded, we will set imported to dynamics to true, error details to, it will be blank if there isn't any error, right? And then we will set the last person ID, which is this one, last person ID, to be equal to the current person ID which is being traversed, right? So that, so this is the main part here. So we are setting the last person ID to the current person ID. The reason behind is that when the next person ID will be traversed, if it is going to be the same person ID, I don't want to query the CRM system again, right? And we will compare the first person or the last person ID with the current person ID, and if it is same and we have found that contact in dynamics, so we would not go in this particular section. We'll go to the another section that we just went through, and hence we are saving a call, an API call to the dynamics server, and we are setting contact found in dynamics to true. So error details, a variable is set to null, imported to dynamics is set to true. So we are also saving the contact GUID because that's what we need to create the folder path, and the full name of contact. So this is all the information under the yes condition, right? And in no, so if we try to search for a contact and the contact is not found in dynamics, so we will be going under this statement under the no block. So this is for the contacts like this, so P002, which are not existing, but there are, let's say there are multiple records with this person ID, so there are multiple files against this contact. However, this contact is not existing in dynamics, right? So for contacts like these, what we are going to do is that we are searching in dynamics, but we did not find any contact with this ID. So what we'll do is that we'll update back the table and we'll say imported to dynamics no, and the error details is contact not found, right? And we are going to say is the contact found in dynamics to false, and the last person ID set to this person ID, so that when number third is executed, so we have queried dynamics and now we know this is not existing in dynamics, and the number 4 is again the same contact and we don't want to hit dynamics again, which is why we are setting the last person ID to the current person ID, which is P002, and we know this contact is not existing in dynamics, so there isn't any need to hit dynamics again, right? And to cover that scenario is being covered here. So we are where we have checked person ID is not equal to last person ID. This means for the number fifth, yes, the person ID is equal to the last person IDs. So which means this condition was false. If contact is equal to, if contact found in Dynamics is equal to true. So that was false, which is why we land in here. And now we are going under this particular section, which means without checking anything in Dynamics, we will directly go and update the SQL table, and we'll say file ID, file person ID that we get from the stored procedure imported to Dynamics to know, and error details contact not found in Dynamics. And then we'll set if contact exists to false, because this contact is not existing, and we set the last person ID to the same currently traversed person ID. So this is the complete flow, Power Automate flow. You can modify it based on your needs. You can return only, you have a stored procedure wherein you are returning only 50 records, and then once those 50 records are traversed, you are calling this flow again to check if there are more records, and then you keep on, make it a recurring flow that is triggering on its own. So let's save it and do a test, right? Let's see, and let's have the database open as well. I can click on here. So okay, it shows this particular file has been uploaded for P001. The file name is change status copy. Let's do a F5 again. Okay, so the next one has been uploaded again, Excel info, so it has been uploaded as well. So P002, you can see it says contact not found, and then it says P002 contact not found in Dynamics. And for P003, actually this file is existing, so we should get an error message here. Yeah, so it says a file with the same name, whatever is this, already exists. Okay, let's go to Dynamics first. So this was, let me refresh it. Okay, so this is our P001, and we could see these two documents are uploaded. Let's go to another record, which was this one. For this, we got an error saying that this file is already existing. So we know this sample word file was already existing, and we also saw that in the SharePoint as well. Yeah, this was already existing, but let's take a look at P001 contact, which is this one. So we could see these two files are uploaded, and we can take a look here. So our flow has ran successfully for all the records. So these are this is the P002 record. This has been set to file ID this imported to Dynamics for error details cannot found in Dynamics. So that is how you can leverage the Power Automate flows to connect to your on-premise database and to connect to your local file system, get the information, the files, documents, information from there, upload it in Dynamics, or rather upload it in SharePoint, and then manage it from Dynamics. I hope you will find it useful. So thank you.